Welcome back to the Pain Changer podcast. This is episode 75, and I am your host, Katie Wrigley. Today, I have a very special guest joining me, retired Sergeant Mark DiBona. Mark is a co founder of an organization called Protect the Guardian, and he's also a retired law enforcement officer. He's giving us the honor of peeking under the covers and sharing his real life struggles with mental health during his career, including a suicide attempt, which I am so happy did not work, Mark.
Me too. So,
Yes, good, good. So thank you so much for being here with me today, Mark, and welcome to the Pain Changer podcast. I really appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable and share your story with us so that people can learn and apply what you've learned into their own lives.
well, thank you, Katie. I appreciate you reaching out to me. And I take that as an honor. So thank you for all you do also. And before we get started, I just want to give a shout out. This is National Nurses Week. My wife's a nurse, so I have to
Oh,
give all the nurses a shout out. And it's also National Corrections Officers Week also. And corrections are created, and unfortunately in law enforcement, sometimes corrections is kind of the forgotten one.
mhm.
And they have a very, very difficult job, and talk about stress. I'm sure it's very, very stressful to work in a prison or a jail. So I just
Oh,
want to give a
yeah.
couple of shout outs. So
Thank you for those. Yes, shout out, please, to all the nurses. Thank you for everything you are doing, and thank you to the correction officers for the tough job of keeping prisoners in line. I can't even imagine how stressful that would be.
I couldn't even imagine. No, no.
Oh, so would you be willing to share your story and kind of how you noticed how your mental health was declining in the years that you were an officer, Mark?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's an open book. Yeah, I speak very freely about it. The reason why I speak very freely about it because I read something online one time. I can't remember the exact quote, but sometimes it says your story will change others or help
Mhm,
others, and I truly believe in that. And I don't tell my story for pity, for sympathy, or anything like that. This can happen to anybody.
mhm.
If you told me in 1985, when I first started my law enforcement career in Braintree, Massachusetts, that I'd be on a podcast in 2024. First of all, I'd ask you what a podcast was. Yeah,
Right.
so yeah, we didn't even have cell phones back then, and it's just funny how life changes, how life like progresses. Because back in 1985, the late 80s, early 90s, maybe even probably even go further than that. We didn't have much peer support when we started in law enforcement. It was drink a beer, you'll get over it, move on. If you can't handle it, you shouldn't be in this job. And emotional stress can happen to anybody in any profession. Which is we got to do better than we're doing now. We're chipping away fairly well, but I think it's always going to be better. So I started my career in 1985, like I said earlier, June 6, 1985. I started off with the Braintree Police Department. From there, I moved on to the Amtrak Police. A lot of people know the Amtrak has a police department.
Hmm.
I worked for them till 1992. And then from there, my wife and I, we decided we wanted to move to Florida. So I continued my career in Florida. I worked for a small city called Avon Park for a year. Then I did 25 years in Seminole County Sheriff's Office, just outside Orlando. And the 25 years I was there, 19 years I was a sergeant for 19 out of the 25 I was there. And I always professed myself as being a cop's cop,
Mhm.
and not being a supervisor, being a leader. And that's a big, big difference. Again, in any job. So I pride myself on that. But as far as mental health wellness goes, there's this expression in law enforcement, we call it quiet practice. Um, you go have a couple of beers somewhere, and then a couple of drinks, and you just say it like it is, and get pissed off, have a couple of laughs, and then you move on from that. Now, I'm not a prohibitionist. I mean, I like my beer, I like my bourbon, like anybody else does, but those aren't good, healthy coping skills by any means. So during my career, I did quite a bit. Like I said, I was a sergeant for 19 years. I was a field training officer. I was a public information officer. I taught at the police academy. I was on street crimes. And for the most part, I had a very, very great career. Um, but there was some curves in my career. To kind of go back a little bit was I was raised in a single parent home. My
Mhm.
mother raised my brother, my sister, and I. We lived in a small place in Boston, about the size of a closet, without exaggeration, very, very small. My mother worked, never took a penny from the government. She worked two or three jobs sometimes. It took
Wow.
us, it took it, yeah. She's my role model. God rest her soul. That's where I get my energy from. That's where I got my work ethic from, where I got my strength. Um, during the course of that time, she turned to alcohol for coping mechanisms, and to the point she probably was an alcoholic at one time. Um, Along with that came bad choices in men sometimes. So I say it to say this: I never had a dad. I wouldn't know who my father was if he walked in this room right now. So I never really had a positive role model in my growing up as a kid, and every boy wants a father figure, somebody can go play baseball with, can go to baseball games, and just be that person for them. So this person came into my life. His name was Richie. My mother was dating him. He came got into the family like very quickly. I saw my mother was very happy with him. That made me happy. So he started taking me, like I said earlier, started taking me to Red Sox games, started taking me to the movies and all that stuff. And it was great. It really was. I said, oh my God, I was about 10, 11 years old. He was my baseball coach. And I said, this is just absolutely amazing. This is what I've been looking for in my life. And then it took a Southern twist. And the twist was it turned to sexual abuse.
Mm.
Um, and you carry your childhood traumas, as you know, Katie. You carry your childhood traumas throughout your life. You bring it to your job. You bring it to your relationships. It was sexual abuse that was. I'm not going to go into graphic details, but he did some nasty stuff. He really did.
Sorry.
This went on for about 3 or 4 years.
Mm.
A lot of people say, "Why don't you tell him no?" or anything like that. I did tell him no. Then he told me he was going to start now going after my sister and my brother. Me as the oldest, I felt I had to protect my family and protect my mom and protect my brothers and sisters. Finally, the sexual abuse stopped, and I put it like on the back burner if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
You just kind of that never happened. I never told my family about it. Those things don't happen in your family. Those are those family secrets that nobody talks about. And but I was coping with it by not acknowledging it. And but I would get triggered every once in a while. So now going to my law enforcement career, again, started in 1985, was also actually the same year I met my wife. And I don't have that typical cop marriage. We've been married 33 years. Um,
Nice.
it's a great marriage. It's my first marriage and hopefully my only marriage because in the first responder world, I just waved my wife, she's leaving. So in the first responder world, a lot of cops have like 5 or 6 wives. Yeah, I know you that drama in my life. I'm totally blessed with what I have. And I got back up for 1 second, Kate. I forgot to mention Richie was also a police officer.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, and it will come together once I get into my story. So my wife's a registered nurse. She's been a nurse for almost 30 years. She's my everything. She really is. I put her through some tough when I get to my story, I put her through some tough times. And she had my back. I'm not gonna lie, she pissed me off a few times, but I'm sure I pissed her off also. So entering my law enforcement career, it was great. I loved being a cop. I loved chasing the bad guy. I worked with some great people, and everything was just going great. I'm like, this is what I wanted. This is my dream since I was 5 years old, watching the old TV shows like Adam 12 and SWAT and all those. It was just amazing. And but through my career, I saw quite a bit, and I saw a lot when I was an Amtrak police officer. What I mean by that is I saw a lot of people hit by trains,
Oh,
a lot of suicides. Uh, and again, not getting graphic, some of those suicides were just outright nasty. The way they said to end their lives, but it never bothered me. I'm like, hey, whatever, and looking back now, I can't believe I'm even saying that. Um, but it wouldn't bother me. And a couple of times I was saying, am I just being cold or am I just not getting it? Or, but we were taught, toughen up, move on and
right.
do your job and go, and do it well. And you never really talked about, hey, listen, that call really kind of messed me up the other day.
Mm.
Um, when I moved to Florida, one of the paramount things in my career was after the Twin Towers were hit, about 3 days later, the sheriff sent up 10 of us up to New York City, and that was just absolutely amazing. And I don't mean amazing in a bad way. to go help out New York City's, or actually the United States worst tragedy ever happened in the United
Yeah.
States. And it was just amazing to be part of that team to help out NYPD, FDNY, to really help out and be a part of that. But one thing I recognized when I was at Ground Zero was the first day I was there, it was very monotone. Uh, in the first responder world, we laugh and joke, and we laugh and joke to relieve our stress.
Yep.
And we probably laugh at the most inappropriate times, especially when there's a TV camera on or something like that.
Yeah.
But I was walking around and people were just kind of doing their thing. They were friendly, but they weren't like jovial or anything like, and that's perfectly understandable. So I saw there was a bunch of tents there. There was like food tents, and there was like water tents, massage tables, all that stuff. But there's one tent that caught my eye. All the sign that said on the tent was "Let's talk."
Mm.
So the way I was brought up in my law enforcement career, I'm like, who's this guy? Yeah, let's talk. I'm gonna go in there and tell some total stranger I'm stressed out. Are you kidding me? But he did have people in his tent. I did notice. So I walked by the second time. He goes, "You want to come in and talk for a couple of minutes?" I'm like, "Nah, bro, I'm good. I'm fine." The F word we say in mental health, the F word, fine.
Yep.
So I spent 2 weeks up there, saw quite a bit, saw a lot of devastation. One thing I distinctly remember was the ground zero was still smoldering when I was there, and also the smell of death and the smell of burnt flesh.
Yeah.
So I come back to Florida, and they did offer us counseling if we wanted it, and everybody on the team said no, because that's what we do.
Yep.
So I went to a vehicle fire one time on a major highway shortly after that, and when I went to the vehicle fire, I was the first one on scene. A deputy pulled up shortly after me, and the car was fully engulfed. And the person in the car was screaming, "Help me, help me, help me." We took our fire extinguishers, that didn't help at all. And we pretty much watched that person die.
Mm.
And that didn't bother me either. I'm like, hey, that's just part of the job, and so about maybe a week or two later, I started having nightmares of that, of the person screaming, and I could literally smell the burdened flesh during my nightmares, or if I thought about it while I was at work or at home or whatever. And I said, "Wow, this is kind of strange," but it's just a major event. I'll move on. No big deal. All that. So I kind of put that on the back burner also. And I got to do my job. I got to be this tough cop. That when nothing bothers me, I got to lead my troops. They can't see a troop being weak or a leader being weak or anything like that. So then my career took a major turn. Was a new boss came in. Like I said, I was a sergeant, so a new lieutenant came in. He was a micromanager. He's a very demeaning, talk down to you type person. He used to use lines like, "You're only a sergeant." Well, what's the rank before lieutenant? The sergeant.
Right.
Do you go off and drink with the administration? I do. Yeah, I could pick up my phone right now and call the admin right now, and you're gone. He,
Jeez.
yeah. So he was a nasty person. So he ruled by fear and intimidation. That's what he ruled by. So we had a meeting with all the sergeants in my district, and he's just belittling us to no end, talking down to us. And I'm a person, if you want the question answered, you're going to get you're going to get the answer whether you like it or not. Now, my goal is not to offend anybody by any means, but I'm a very blunt person when I speak. Way back when I was probably way more blunt, yeah, than I am now. So he pissed me off. So I said to him, I said, "Listen, don't talk to us like that." And right away, he just moved in for the throat at that point. So he started micromanaging me. So I had a meeting with him. We had a one-on-one meeting after we had our big meeting, and I noticed he was talking with a Boston accent.
Hmm.
So I thought that was really strange because he's not from Boston. So I asked him, I said, "You from Boston?" He goes, "No." I said, "Why do you have a Boston accent?" And he goes, "I have to get down to your level." Okay,
Wow.
yeah, that's
Wow.
immature, insulting. Yeah, I get up from Boston. We park our car in the yard. I get all that, chowder and all that. We definitely have a unique accent. There's no question about that. But I said, don't be doing that. We can talk like adults here. So he moved in for the throat. Everything I did wrong. Something as simple as writing a report, you didn't put a comma after that word. That call you handled the other night, you handled that wrong. You should have done this, you should have done that. And not bragging, Katie, I was a good cop. I really was. And I put my people first. Um, and I just said, you know, so getting to the point now where I started being very frustrated about going to work because I felt that I couldn't do anything right. But I said, you know something, I got this. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior. I got all this. Well, it got to the point where he would call me about 8:30 in the morning. I used to work 5P to 5A.
Hmm.
So you know all about sleep. Yeah, when I used to go to bed about maybe 6 in the morning, when he's calling me 8:30, I'm starting to get into my REM sleep now.
Yep.
And I'm the type of person, I wake up, I'm done. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh no.
I stare at the ceiling fan for the next 5 hours. So he was calling me, you need to change this, you need to change this in your report. And that's a form of bullying. It's a form of micromanaging. It's not the way you do things. This can be handled very, very simply through an email or when you come back to work, unless it's something capricious, then I totally understand that. I could literally set my watch, my alarm clock to when he was going to call.
Wow.
And so it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal because it's weighing on your head all the time.
Right.
Um, so I had a meeting with him again, and I said, "Listen, this has got to stop." And then he goes, "Why don't you file a complaint on me?" Then he goes, but they're not going to believe you, are they?" And I gotta be honest with you, he's 100% right because, like I said earlier, golfs with the administration, hangs out with the administration. In my opinion, he's probably about 100% right. But I said, you know something? No way. I can fight this. Bosses come and go. And one of the reasons why I didn't want to transfer was because I really very much enjoyed my shift. The guys and girls on my shift, I could have handpicked a better shift. They were
Nice.
great. I mean, they had their tips like anybody else does, don't get me wrong, but they worked very, very well together. And I thought that was just absolutely, I mean, somebody said one time, that's a reflection of you. No, that's a reflection of their motivation. My job as a leader is to get them where they need to go. And I used to tell my squad all the time, and also when I talk to the police academy all the time, my job is for you to replace me someday. And I used to say that in a police academy, and some of the instructors go, "Oh, that's crazy. That's no, it's I can't be a cop for the next 100 years. Yeah, you know, I want to enjoy my retirement and all that." So it started progressively getting worse. Um, so there came time for my evaluation, and I used to preach this all the time when I used to teach leadership. That well, I should still teach leadership. Is okay if I did an evaluation on you, um, we have to have that difficult conversation if there is something to have a difficult conversation with. And when you read that eval with me, you should not be surprised in anything in that eval. There should
Yep.
be nothing surprising, good or bad. There should be nothing in that.
Yep.
So he left my eval in my mailbox. It wasn't in an envelope, so pretty much anybody could read it if they went to my mailbox. Um, so there was a post-it note on the eval. So I'm gonna get to that in 1 second. So I read the eval. I went right to the back page because that's what everybody does. You know, what's your score? What are the comments and all that stuff? He said something to the effect of, on June 1st, I talked to Sergeant DiBona about this. On June 2nd, we talked about that. We never talked about that. So he hid behind the keyboard,
Wow.
which I find tasteless. Uh, then he wrote the paragraph below that was, at this point, I'm recommending Sergeant DiBona to be demoted and or terminated from the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, and because he violated this general order, violated that general order, on and on and on. So of course that set me off. You know, obviously, you know, all my life I wanted to be a cop. I'm not. There's no way I'm going to end my career like this.
Right.
You know, I started crying, started stressing out. Now let's get back to the post-it note for a second. The post-it note said this: "Precious," with a comma, because he likes his commas, with a comma. Um, you're not gonna like this eval. You have a right to appeal. When you appeal, we'll talk. My sexual abuser used to call me his precious little boy.
Oh wow.
Now, granted, that's not the lieutenant didn't know that, and I'm not putting that on him, but I got triggered majorly because of that.
And it's
Uh,
inappropriate. I mean,
it's very
it's condescending, it's inappropriate to refer to someone you're reviewing as precious.
right, right, yeah, it's very condescending, like you said, very, very inappropriate. So, that obviously triggered that obviously triggered me. So I called him. He didn't answer his phone. I sent him a text. He didn't answer his text. Sent him an email. Didn't answer all that. Of course, he calls the next morning at 8:30, and when I answer the phone, he goes, "Hello, precious." So I'm gonna have to swear when I say this. So I said to the lieutenant, "Don't you ever fucking call me precious again."
Good.
And he wrote me up a contact to a supervisor. You know.
Unbelievable. And you can
So
totally swear as much as you need to, just FYI.
right. Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to keep it maybe R-rated. So, so, right after that, I started relating to my sexual abuser, because as you know, sexual abusers are bullies.
Oh, yeah.
They're punks. They take advantage of people. They don't accept responsibility. They're narcissists. And we can go on and on about them. But I started, every time I thought of that lieutenant, I would think of my sexual abuser. And I'm like, it was weird because they were both cops, both lieutenants. So it's a very, very weird coincidence. So I made an appointment with the lieutenant again. I said, listen, this precious thing's got to stop. This micromanagement's got to stop. He goes, I think it's best that you transfer.
Wow.
Which I didn't want to transfer because, again, I had that warrior mentality that I got this, and I didn't want to leave my people. I just didn't. I just did not want. I was working in the area that was very, very busy, a very violent area, and I like that. I like that high adrenaline rush policing. So I thought to myself, I said, maybe it's best I do put in for a transfer. I mean, at this point, I get, why am I having nightmares? My sexual abuser, which I never thought of in 15, 20 years or something like
Mhm.
that. And as you know, in the mental health world, these are all triggers. These are
Yep.
things that, and you bring your personal life to your job. When I got a call for sexual abuse, what's the first thing I thought of? I thought my own abuse. And to
Yeah.
be honest with you, I wanted to kick the shit out of that guy that was the abuser. Obviously I didn't, but yeah, I wanted to out of my stress. So I put in for the transfer, and about maybe 4 or 5 days, I got an email back saying, we don't transfer problems, we fix problems. And I'm
Wow.
like, I can't win by trying. So I met with one of the captains, and he said, I gotta tell you right now, this guy is gunning for you. He's trying to get you fired. We're gonna do something about this. But the problem is, Mark, is you're talking back to him. You're mouthing off to him. And that's putting fuel into the fire. That's what that is.
Right.
And his captain was a good guy. And he said, there's only so much I can do to protect you. I have to listen to him, and I have to listen to you. But he said the one thing that really hit home was, he goes, this guy's connected.
Mm.
And as you know, there's politics in every job.
Oh, yeah.
So again, it started getting worse. I appealed my evaluation. It got continued, appealed, it got continued. But it was getting to the point now where I didn't want to go to work. And a lot of people, as you know, have different coping mechanisms when it comes to stress. One of my coping mechanisms was eating. Eating McDonald's, Burger King, all the food that's bad for you. That's what I was eating.
Yep.
Donuts, the cop thing, donuts. And I was washing it down with a Diet Coke, thinking everything's fine. You know, and I was eating probably 8, 9 times a day, and eating more so when I was at work. And so I came home from work one morning, very, very, very stressed out, had a bad night at work. And my wife was sitting at the kitchen table at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I knew it was her day off. And I said to her, I said, everything okay? She says, we need to talk. I
Mm.
said, oh my God. So I went to the refrigerator and grabbed a beer. She's like, no, you're not grabbing a beer. Get changed, come downstairs, and we're going to talk.
Oh,
So I walked up those stairs up to my, and I'm thinking, nothing good's coming out of this conversation. I can tell you
I'm
that right.
getting chills, and I wasn't
Right.
even
Oh
there.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, she sounds like she meant business.
Oh, she definitely meant, yeah, she's a Boston girl also, so she definitely business.
I'm
So
familiar.
I'm thinking all this stuff to myself. Is she having an affair? Is she going to divorce me? Is she going to throw me out? I'm thinking all this stuff to myself, but I never once accepted responsibility for my actions, which I'm going to get to right now. So we sat down, and she said, how's work going? I said, it's horrible. She's, yeah, I know it's horrible. Do you know why? Because you're snapping at me. Um, you're yelling at me, and my wife's, I don't raise my voice to her. I don't talk back to her. I'm very respectful to her. And she goes, We don't do things that we used to always do. Like we like to go to the beach. You're living in Florida, obviously that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Um, we like going to Red Sox games when the Red Sox come over to St. Pete. We like live music and all that. We weren't doing any of that. And to be very blunt, we weren't having sex either. And as you know, that's a part of a relationship.
Yep.
So she said, also, I want to talk about your weight gain. And that just set me right off.
Mm.
I said, what's wrong with me? You gained quite a bit of weight and you're drinking all the time. And I said, okay. So she goes, you need to get help. And I said to her, you don't get this. You're not a cop, so you have no idea. My wife, again, is a registered nurse. She's worked in the trauma room. She's worked with the COVID. She's worked with cancer patients. She's got trauma in her life also.
Yep.
She's actually a survivor of sexual abuse also. Um, So that pissed me right off. So I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I moved out of our bedroom and I moved into one of the spare bedrooms. You don't want to see me. You don't want to talk to me. That's fine. Again, accepting zero responsibilities for my actions, which she's 100% right. She's probably 110% right. So my other coping mechanism I turned to drinking. I come home, have about 4 or 5 beers, have a couple of shots of tequila, and pretty much drink myself to sleep. Um, Really weird. A lot of times I go to that bedroom and I would lay on the floor. I wouldn't lay in the bed, and I would lay in the fetal position, and I would say, "Why me? Why me? Why me?" But again, I'm not saying how can I change this. It's just why is this happening to me? So then it got to the point where I started drinking before work. A couple of
Mhm.
shots of tequila before work, kind of, mellow me out a little bit. Then it got to the point where I had a tequila bag in my equipment bag on my front seat where I would drink while I'm working. I pulled this girl over one night, visibly drunk, no question about that. I was getting ready to do the field sobriety task with her. And I said to her, ma'am, as I'm speaking to you, I can smell an odor of an alcohol type beverage coming off your person in your mouth area. She looked at me, she goes, that's not me, that's you.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a no shit moment. Yeah,
yeah, big
yeah,
time.
yeah. So needless to say, she didn't go to jail. Yeah, yeah, that did so, but that again, that didn't phase me. Then I started turning into a micromanager. I started talking down to my shift. I started taking my frustrations out on them, and to the point where they started distancing from me as I distanced from them. Again, I was a working sergeant. I would go on calls, I'd make arrests, take reports, whatever needed to be done. If the guys and girls are doing it, well, guess what? So am I. But I turned that around to I'm not doing anything. I'm the boss. That's why. And that's not good at all.
Doesn't tend to
Um,
motivate much, no.
right. As you know, as a leader, you should be a motivator and all that. The nightmares continued with my sexual abuser, nightmares of 9/11, were to the point where I was afraid to go to sleep. I don't want to experience those no nightmares at all. So I was getting maybe 2 hours of sleep,
Mhm.
maybe at the most. On my days off, I would just sit there and watch TV. The house was always dark, cold. I wouldn't know. Yeah, I would have a conversation with my wife, but that's about it. Uh, and I thought everything was fine. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going through this rut. I'm just going through this big deal. Yeah, no big deal. I'll get through it. So I was sitting at the fire station one night. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. The FD went out on a call, and this car pulls in maybe 5 or 10 minutes the FD goes out on the call. This woman jumps out of the car. She comes running to my cruiser, and she's holding her baby. Her baby's 4 months old, and she said, "My baby is not breathing."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's what I said with a couple of F-bombs and all that also.
Right.
So I check its pulse. No, it's not breathing.
Oh,
Again, on the radio, I need an ambulance here now. I need the fire department here now. I'm doing CPR on the baby. Nothing's happening. Finally, I got the pulse back. I'm like, this is amazing. Oh, this is absolutely incredible. Then I lost it again.
oh,
Um, the FD gets there. It seemed like it took forever. They were there pretty quick, but in a stressful situation, everything's in
time
slow
warp.
motion.
Hmm.
Yeah, and everything's in slow motion.
Yep.
Um, they put the baby in the back of the ambulance. They go to the hospital. Obviously, I go to the hospital also. While they're working on the baby in the emergency room, I'm holding the baby's hand. I have emotional attachment to this baby now. There's no question about that.
Right.
The doctor pronounced the baby dead.
Mm.
Um, And I said to the doctor, you got to be kidding me. How's this happen? What is going on? I failed, you failed. I don't get this. I know I was very pissed off at that doctor. So he said to me, he goes, let me ask you a question. He's, are you a Christian? At the time I wasn't. And I said, no, I'm not. He goes, well, there's a thing called the book of life. You're only on this earth as long as the Lord wants you to be on this earth. Then he's going to take you to heaven and where you're going to provide a better service than you are on this earth right now. I looked at the doctor. I go, that's a crock of bullshit. That's all. That don't give me that. So the family comes in, they flip out.
Yeah,
Understandably so. I understandably so.
right.
They were yelling and screaming at me. That's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. The good side of the story was I kept in touch with the family. A year later, they had another baby,
Mhm.
and I was the baby's godfather.
Oh,
Yeah, so this that was the Lord working there. There's no question
oh,
about
that's
that. Yeah,
beautiful. I got
yeah,
chills again.
yeah.
Oh,
That I thought that was great. So the same night I get back in my cruiser. First thing I do is open my equipment bag and I guzzle some tequila down. And all of a sudden I start sweating, start having chest pains, dry mouth, shaking. I'm thinking, am I having a heart attack? I'm too young for this. Yeah, I'm thinking, oh my God, it was a panic attack. Never in my life have I ever had a panic attack that I know of. I've seen people on calls have panic attacks. I'm like, really? They're attention seekers.
oh, they
And,
suck.
yeah,
Panic
yeah,
attacks. Oh,
I would recommend to anybody. Yeah, yeah, they nothing. Oh, it's just horrible. So I got through the panic attack. Had a couple more drinks of tequila. I put my cruiser in reverse and I backed into an ambulance.
oh no.
Yeah.
Oops.
So I get out. There's visual damage, obviously. So I had to call for somebody to work the crash. So the Florida Highway Patrol comes. As I'm speaking to the trooper, I noticed this one thing. Every time I stepped towards him, he would take a step back.
Mm.
And I said to myself, what's this guy's problem? Well, come to find out, he didn't want to smell the alcohol in my breath.
Ooh.
Yeah. Because I talked to him about a year later, and that's what he told me. So I went home and, of course, drank myself blind, got in an argument with my wife. I called her on the way home and she said, hey, I'm trying to get ready for work. Let's talk while I'm getting ready. Oh, you don't have the time for me? Oh, is that what that is? Because it's all about me, you know? So 2 days later, I couldn't time this any worse. 2 days later, I have to do my CPR recertification. Everything's going good. I'm doing the compressions, breathing them out. Everything's good. So they hand me the infant.
Oh no.
Uh, and I fell, Katie, I fell face first on the floor.
Mm.
Um, Passed out, woke up. Oh yeah, yeah, I've got the flu, I've got this, I've got that, on. And a couple of people are like, yeah, really, Sarge? Is that what's happening? Oh yeah, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, 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 and all that. So that was, that was very, very, very difficult. But it got to the point where now I'm now becoming very rebellious to the job and to my wife, to my family, to my friends. Very, very rebellious and being a very person. As you can probably tell, I have an outgoing personality. I like to laugh. I like to joke.
Hmm.
Exact opposite.
Yeah.
Exact. I felt that everybody was after me, and but I kept on saying to myself, what if I get fired? What am I going to do? And I'm like, yeah, whatever. They fire me, they fire me, whatever. So I was at work one night and I started really, really reevaluating my life. I was sitting in my cruiser and I just have this little hiding spot in the industrial park right where I used to park, and all cops can relate to this. Anybody that's worked midnight shift has said they've never fallen asleep while they're working is a liar. Okay. We all had little hiding spots, and we take care of each other and on. Well, I went to my hiding spot. And my mind is racing, and I'm just going on. Everything's going on in my life, and I started hearing voices,
Mm.
and the voices were, "You're worthless. You're a POS." But the voice that I could hear was my abuser's voice, and I'm like, "This has got to stop. This is what we in Florida we call it Baker Act, a 72-hour commitment. This has got to stop. This is not healthy. This is not normal." But it was so overwhelming. Then I had another panic attack. So I had a couple of drinks while I was sitting in my cruiser. And just like this, I snapped and I said, you know something? I'll show them. Look what you did to me. A lot of cops, a lot of first responders, more so cops, when they die by suicide, they die in their uniform, they die in their cruiser, or they die at their station. My personal opinion, that's a message. In my opinion, is a loud and clear message. So I said, you know something, I'll show them. Look what you did to me. Look how you forced me into this bad place that I'm in right now. So I wrote a suicide note. On the front page of the note was to my wife. I'm sorry, to the agency. A lot of MFs, a lot, very nasty, nasty note, accepting zero responsibility. On the page over on the other side was to my wife and to my mom. My mother was still alive back then. Um, Again, accepting no responsibilities, maybe like one "I love you" and the whole thing. And I finished it with "I'll see you again. You don't get this. I'm a coward." And really no remorse. So I wrote the note, and I took a piece of evidence tape, and I slid the note into a paper plastic holder, and I hung the note off my rearview mirror, and I just stared at it and stared at it. I'm pumping myself up. I picked up my phone and I called dispatch, and I said to the dispatcher, "Hey, who's the on-call homicide detective for my?" Then I was in District 2 for District 2. She said, "Oh, it's Jennifer Spears." Who's actually a very close friend of mine to this day, still very close friend of mine. Um, I said, "Okay, thank you." So the dispatcher said, "Do you need something?" I said, "No, just in case something happens, I can call her directly. That way I don't have to bother you guys." She said again, "Sarge, do you need something?" I said, "No, I'm good." She goes, "Hey, listen, I'm taking my dinner break in a couple of hours. Do you want to meet like at 7-Eleven, have a coffee or something like that?" I said, "No, I'm good." She picked up on something. There's no question about that. So I sat there for a couple more minutes, thinking of revamping and all that stuff. And I said, "You know something, it's time to go. It's just time to go." I took my gun out of my holster. I looked at it, I put it back in. I said, "Oh my God, I can't do this. There's no way. There's no way I can do this." But I said to myself, "Yeah." And I also believe in another analogy is this: is suicide is not about dying, it's about stopping the pain.
Hmm.
Um, so I took my gun back out and I said, "This time I'm going to do it." I put my head back on my headrest of my car and I put the gun in my mouth. Uh, this sounds really strange when I say it. It was very calming with that gun in my mouth. Very calming. To this day, I can taste the metal in my mouth. That's my PTSD. I'm not being triggered by any means, but I can still taste it. So as I'm getting ready to squeeze the trigger, even though I have my eyes closed, I can see headlights come in. So another deputy pulls up. His name is Craig McGee. Great guy, phenomenal guy. So he said to me, "Hey, Sarge." He used to call me, my nickname's Bone. So he used to call me Sergeant Bone. "Hey, Sergeant Bone." He goes, "They've been calling you on the radio for the last hour. They've um, they've sent you messages on your computer. They've called your cell phone. The helicopter's in the air looking for you."
Holy
Yeah,
cow.
I never heard any of that. No,
Wow.
never heard a phone call. Never heard. So I said, "Craig," I said, "How'd you find me?" He goes, "Really?" He goes like that. I said, "Okay, yeah, that's my little hiding spot. Yeah, okay, I get that." So he goes, "What's going on? What's going on?" I said, "Craig, I'm going to kill myself. So unless you want to watch me, I suggest you leave. And as your sergeant, I'm telling you, go back in your zone." He goes, "I'm not going back in my zone." So Craig talked me down that night. He really did. He saved my life. No question about that. So he said, you've got to get some kind of help." I said, "Craig, if I get some help, I'm going to be fired. People are going to make fun of me. I can't do this." You got to get help. So I went home early that morning. I called the watch commander, made some story up that I wasn't feeling good. And Craig said to me, "At 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to call you and I'm going to take you wherever you need to go. If not, I'm going to Baker Act you." And I said, "All right." I go, "Fair enough." So I went home, changed, went downstairs, sat by my pool. That's like my happy place. Sat by my pool, one drink, two drinks, three drinks, but also on the table was my gun. So I started reevaluating again. I'm like, okay, this is gonna actually work out pretty good because when I shoot myself, my wife may hear the gunshot. By the time she goes downstairs, it's over. You know, so be it. You know, some people call it selfish. I don't like calling it selfish. So I started doing that, and I said to myself, "Yeah, this is the right thing to do." So I put my feet up on the table and I put the gun in my mouth again. But when I closed my eyes, I visualized my wife standing over me, and that's total trauma. That's trauma with a capital T. I thought about my friend Jennifer responding to the scene as a homicide detective. I thought about the paramedics that responded to the scene. I thought about the crime scene people responding to the scene. I thought about my wife trying to explain to my mother why I died by suicide. Explain to my brother, explain to my sister, explain to my friends, my coworkers. I'm like, that's a lot going on. That's really a lot going on. So I'm really into music. So I also had a CD player on my show my age here. CD player sitting on the table. So I hit shuffle on my CD player, and the song came on. Even the Nights Are Better by Air Supply. That was my wedding song to my wife. A very
Oh.
nice love song, very cool, mellow song. And I'm like, that's really not the song I want to hear right now. So I hit shuffle again, and what happens? That song comes on again. Like, you got to be kidding me. So I hit shuffle for the third time, and the song came on, More Than a Feeling by Boston. That's my all-time favorite. I Greatest song ever, in my opinion. That's my get up and go song. That's my depression song. It just makes me feel good. And the strange thing about it was the lead singer of Boston, his name is Brad Delp. He died by suicide.
Oh.
He died a horrific death by suicide. And I said, you know something? I don't care. I put the gun in my mouth and I visioned my wife again. I said, yeah, you know something? I do need to get help. Absolutely, I do need to get help. I put the gun down. I picked up my phone. I called a friend of mine who works in Massachusetts, who was an usher in my wedding, very close friend of mine, Bruce Tate. When he answered the phone, this is what he answered was, "What's wrong?" So he's a cop also. So maybe that sixth sense was coming in or something like that. And I said, Bruce, I'm in a bad place, brother. So I started telling him, he goes, well, you need to get help. And I said, yeah, I do. He goes, come up to Boston. That way, half your trauma is in Florida. You come up to Boston, I'll get you some help. I know some programs. I said, okay, I think that's probably the best bet to do. So I sent an email to one of the patrol captains, lied and said, hey, listen, my mother's sick, emergency. I need to fly to Boston. I'll keep you posted. Then I wrote a hint note to my wife, lying. I'm going to Boston. I want to check on my mom. Yeah, I might get some help while I'm up there. Then I hung up my phone. And the reason why I hung up my phone was I didn't want to hear from my wife because obviously she's going to call. So I fly up to Boston and I meet my friend. We go to the facility. And I said, you know something? No, I'm not going to get help. You're not going to do this to me. Nope, absolutely not. I'm going to lose my job, and shame on you for bringing me up here. Again, not accepting responsibility. So there's a couple other people. So my friend had to leave to go to court. So I was talking to a couple of the other peer support specialists, and they said, "Well, we're going to commit you if you don't." And that's the last thing we want to do is we want to commit you. We want you voluntarily to go get help. I
Right.
told them absolutely not. So they committed me. They called for a cruiser to transport me there, and a cop comes in. He's a young cop, so I say that for a reason. He points to me. Is that him? And the two peer support people are cops also. They said, yeah, that's him. Turn around, put your hands behind your back. And they said, you don't have to handcuff this guy. He's very mellow. Oh, you want me to violate policy? Is that what you want me to do? I said, dude, go ahead and handcuff me. You're one of those guys. I can tell that already. You're one of those, handcuff me. As he's driving me to the facility, I'm in the back seat behind the cage in handcuffs behind my back. That's trauma. And he's talking down to me. I know what's up with you guys. This is no big deal. I have no problem. I play Xbox. That's my stress relief. On and on and on and on. So, obviously I don't like this guy. I don't think this guy likes me either. So we get to the facility and he's holding my arm. And I said to him, you don't have to hold my arm. I'm not going anywhere. I know I'm being committed. Anything I say to you is not going to change your mind. I'm just trying to do the best I can right now. Please don't hold on to my arm. And he goes, I have to hold on to your arm. So I shrugged off him. When I shrugged off him, he spun me around. He put me face first onto the floor. He was good. He did great leg sweep. Great leg sweep. Yeah. So right away, now they bring me in right away because now I'm labeled as combative. Um, they put me in a facility. I'm yelling and swearing, just being a really nasty person, being nasty to the nurses. So one of the nurses says to me, she says, hey, listen, I know you're a police officer. My husband's a state trooper. He's gone through some issues. I would like him to come in and talk to you once you calm down. And I'm like, F that guy, F you also. No. So it got to the point where, and I say this every time in my presentations, I want everybody to hear me out when I say this, and visualize yourself laying on a hospital bed with your ankles and your wrists secured, 4-point restraints. You can't even scratch your nose with a paper gown on that pretty much covers nothing, in a catheter because I wouldn't give blood and I wouldn't give urine. So there's nothing, it's just horrible. They medicated me that night, thank God. So I actually got a pretty good sleep, via the medication. But when I woke up, it started all over again. Um, so the same nurse came in. She said, "You feeling any better?" I told her to get the hell out of my room. And about maybe an hour later, now I'm still restrained. My mother walked into the room,
Mm.
and I could smell the alcohol when she walked into the room. And the first thing I said to my mom was, "Take these restraints off." She said, "I can't do that." So who am I mad at now? Also, I'm mad at my mother. Also,
Mhm.
my mother gave me a kiss in the forehead, and I said, "Ma, I'm a loser. I just want to die. Can you just ask them to put some injection in me to kill me? I want to die, Ma. I just want to die." She's crying. I'm crying. Well, she put her hand over my chest. And my mother was a very loving, touching person. And she looked me dead in the eye and she says, "Honey, I believe in you." She
Mm.
goes, "I want you to get help. When you get help, I'll get help for my alcoholism also."
Oh, wow.
So we made a pact, that, yep, that's what we're going to do. My mother became clean and sober shortly after that. I
Oh,
thought that was
wow.
absolutely amazing. While I was in Massachusetts, I lied because cops are good liars. I lied my way through my treatment facility, came back to Florida. I'm thinking, all right, here we go. Everything's great now. I'm cured. No problem. I got help like everybody told me to get help. I can get my marriage back on track and on and on and on. But again, never accepted full responsibility. Go back to what I talked about earlier about the song "More Than a Feeling" by Boston.
Mhm.
Brad Delp's suicide note. In his suicide note, he said this: "I accept all responsibility for my actions."
Oh, wow.
I was on the internet one night and I was flipping around and I saw that. Now I accept all responsibilities for my actions. So I came back to work. Full disclosure, my agency has my back. On and on and on. It was the exact opposite. What are we going to do with him? He's a liability. One person in a leadership role said to me that you're a walking time bomb, which I found very offensive. What are we going to do with you? So I became, I was transferred while I was gone to a new lieutenant, which was by far the best boss I ever worked for in my life. She was just such an amazing boss. And another but high regards to her. So I started, I went from one therapist to another. I didn't feel comfortable with one therapist, went to another therapist. Then I found my present therapist, which I'm still in therapy. Like, "Oh, you're retired now. Why are you still in therapy?" Because therapy's good. Um, and she's a retired police officer, so she gets the traumas of the job. She was, for lack of a better word, she was screwed over by her department. Um, so I started rebuilding my life, rebuilding my career. I had to rebuild my marriage first of all. That was the number one priority: rebuild my marriage. Sat down with my wife. I said, "I understand if you want to leave me. I understand this." I said, but I need you." And she said, "Well, I need you also." So "I have your back. I'm gonna help you as best as I can, but I'm not gonna baby you. That's one thing I'm not gonna do. Therapy's at 2 o'clock. Guess what? You're gonna be there at 2 o'clock." Uh, so I came back to work. It was good days, bad days. I had a good boss, so that was a major plus. I appealed my evaluation. I won my evaluation. I didn't get demoted, didn't get fired, or
Good.
anything like that. So I said, something, I want to be an advocate now. I'm not the only cop that's ever gone through this, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be the last cop that's ever gone through this.
Right.
So I became an advocate and I started doing presentations, started speaking to the media, but I spoke very, very angry. My agency did this to me, this person did that to me, uh, F this person, on and on and on. So my wife went to one of my presentations one time, we're driving home. I said to her, "How did I do?" She's horrible. I go, "What? You're my number one fan. What are you talking about?" She goes, "You're not a likable person when you're up there talking. You're very angry." And she's a couple of times you punched the podium. Um, she's like, "No, she's one of the things that attracted to you was your humor, the way you smile, the way you." So I started injecting humor into my story, started becoming more personable into it. It's been very, very successful, extremely successful. it's a blessing. So I worked another 10 years with diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety, compassion fatigue. But I learned one thing that really on my road to recovery is one thing. There are things in your life that you can control, but unfortunately, there's more things that you can't control.
Oh yeah.
Like the old saying goes, you can't fight City Hall.
No.
Yeah, you can't go off and tell your boss, F you. You're paid to provide a service for the citizens that you patrol, but you're also paid to do the right thing for the agency also.
Right.
Um, so I learned very quickly to stop being so aggressive, uh, stop being, this person's out to get me, and start reading into things a little bit differently now, seeing positive things, because in the negative, there's also a positive, which sounds kind of weird, but there is.
No, I get it.
Yeah. So I was able to lose my weight. I lost like 45 pounds.
Wow.
I still eat bad, but yeah, but so be I'm Italian. We eat bad. There's no question about that. My drinking dropped considerably. I still like a drink, every once in a while. I was put on medication. At first, I was against that. I was like, for lack of a better word, only crazy people take meds, and I'm not taking these, but it did balance me out. Uh, my sleep issues got a lot better, but more so I became more of a positive person, more of a likable person to the person I was before my crisis, that I need to be that person again, more so to get my marriage on track and get my career on track.
Yep.
So I retired in 2019. I did a mic drop retirement. I could have went another 5 years. I woke up one day and said, you know something, I'm out. Yeah, the job's not. I didn't hate my job. 33 years is more than enough.
Oh, that's a long time. Yeah.
That's a long time. I was able to retire at 54. That's great age to retire. And I devoted my time now to mental health, wellness, suicide prevention for first responders, for anybody, not just first responders, for anybody that will listen to me, anybody I can help. And it's been great. I was with a different organization before I started my own organization. I'm not going to talk bad about that organization, but it was just time for me to leave that organization also. So me and four people, we co-founded Protecting the Guardian. I'm the president of it. We're a nonprofit. Uh, and I love what I do. I love podcasts. I love speaking to people in conferences. But what really and I don't say this much, but I feel like I need to say this. Um, I've had 15 people come up to me and said, you saved my life.
Mm.
And that's a true blessing. That's
Mhm.
just, it is such an amazing blessing. Part of my road to recovery also is I became a Christian. Uh, I go to the Lord for everything. He probably thinks I'm a pain in the butt because I ask him about hey, can I run this one by you? And that's where I get my strength from him. I get strength from my mom. My mother passed away, but I know she's got my back also. I know my wife's got my back. Um, and I just do think I stepped out of my comfort zone. I bought a guitar a couple of years ago. I had no idea how to play it, but I'm a music. I love music. It's coming along. Not as great as
Yep.
I would like it to be, but it's coming along. I used to make this joke all the time when I work. When I retire, I'm gonna grow my hair long, and as you can see, I grew my hair long. Yeah, because I love that rock and roll look.
Yep.
Uh, and I do that. I step out of my comfort zone. I don't I don't live for today, but I'm more responsible for today. But I also understand there's no guarantee for tomorrow,
Yep.
uh, which is scary, but I want to put my head on my pillow every night and say, something, life is good.
Yep.
It's really good. I get my energy from my wife also. I get energy from you. I just get energy from the littlest things in life that I get energy from. I'm a big advocate of pet therapy. I have two dogs. They're just Romeo and Bella. They're just absolutely amazing. Romeo's my service dog. He's got it going on. He definitely knows what time it is. Spend
Yeah.
time with them. We go to the beach now on a regular basis. We go see live music on a regular basis. We're going to Dolly World in September.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
my relationship, my marriage is phenomenal. I love spending time with my wife, even if it's just sitting there watching TV, or something simple as just like, hey, let's have a date night. And that's another big thing in therapy also, what I call my therapy is date nights.
Yep. Yeah.
Don't let your marriage be a routine. You eat at
No.
5 o'clock every night. You go to bed at 10 o'clock every night. Hey, let's go out to dinner tonight. Or let's go catch a movie, or let's go for a walk. Let's go to the beach or something like that. So these things have really made me happy in life. Now, do I still have my PTSD? Yeah, I do. Do I still have nightmares? Sure, I do. But I understand now that that's part of my life, that I can't say I wish it would go away. Maybe someday it will. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I know how to control that, for lack of a better word. I know when a panic attack is starting to come on. Uh, but one of the biggest things I learned in life also is toxic people.
Oh yeah.
If somebody is toxic, get them the hell out of your life.
Yep.
I just recently did that with a family member. It hurts.
Oh
It
yeah.
really, really, but this person was a complete narcissist from the word go. Nobody likes a narcissist. Um, and my wife also flushed that person out of her life also. And it was very difficult to do. And you still have a sense of guilt sometimes that maybe it was me, but I cannot have that person in my life anymore who's going to ridicule me, who's going to talk down to me, who thinks they're better than me. It's even playing fields. And so I got rid of that, and I got rid of toxic environment in my life also. My job, law enforcement is a toxic job. There's no question about that. And I have nothing but the love and respect for all the first responders. There's a really tough world we're living in right now with all the protests going
Absolutely.
on, the anti-police, the defunding the police. That's tough. That really is. Now they're not part of that anymore. I want good cops out there. If I call
Mhm.
911, I want a good cop to respond to my house. If I call for a paramedic, I want a good paramedic showing up.
Yep.
I want
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. And so I think by sharing my story and sharing my positives in life, I truly believe that will help. And I also believe in showing my negativity in my life that I had also will help also. I just did a presentation just recently in Ocean City, and I opened up a question and answer. This girl stand up. She's, I don't have a question. I just want to give you a hug.
Aw.
Like I said, I'm all about the hugs. Yeah, I'm like, this is, yeah, rock on,
Yep.
rock on. This is great. In my presentations, we also do the YMCA in my presentations.
Nice.
Yeah, see, because talking about mental health and suicide, it's not a fun topic.
No.
It's not. So I try to embellish my personality into that. I make fun of myself. I do that cop humor, do the first responder humor, talk about politics a little bit. That's hit or miss sometimes. But I just talk about how good life can be. But the only person to make that life good for you is you. Now,
Yep.
don't get me wrong, Katie. You need somebody for a backup. You need somebody to have your back. The Lord has my back. My wife has my back. My friends, my family have my back. But the only way, if you want to climb a mountain, the only person that can climb the mountain is you.
Yep.
And when you're at the peak of that mountain, that's the most fabulous feeling in the world. That's a major accomplishment in life. But guess what? Now you have to go down that mountain also. And you're going to
Yep.
go by your traumas in your life. You're going to go by that things that pissed you off. You're going to go by these horrible things. I look at it this way. I'm not a victim of sexual abuse. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. I'm not a victim of suicide. I'm not a victim of mental health illness. That's part of my life. I'm a survivor of all that. Also, what a lot of people think when it comes to mental health, they think is, you asked for this. You walk around with your head down, toughen up, buttercup. You can get through this. But mental health illness is just like a physical illness. Nobody wakes up and says, you know something? I want cancer today. You
Yeah.
know
No.
something?
No.
I want to be a diabetic today.
No.
I didn't wake up and say, you know something? I want PTSD today. I want to kill myself today. Okay, this is progression that goes through in your life. Well, mental health has chemo also.
Mhm.
Cancer patients go get chemo that hopefully they survive and get better. Well, mental health wellness, this is chemo and that also, not actually the drug, is but your wellness, how you can proceed. So I still have bad days. Sure, every day. The other day I woke up in a bad mood. Have no idea why I woke up in a bad mood. Just woke up in a bad mood. Went downstairs. I played with the dogs for a couple of minutes. Put some music on. Went to the gym. Had a really good workout. Bought myself lunch. Went to lunch by myself. My wife was working. And it turned around to be a really good day. You know,
Nice.
I really don't know what I was pissed off about, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
or I forgot about it. And it's just really good. And my wife retires. I married young, so she's looking at probably going maybe another 5 or 10 years. Life's gonna get even better with with
That's
that.
awesome.
And that's how when my wife goes to my presentations now, I don't get that look from her like I can't believe you just said that. Every once in a while I'll get that, hey, knock that one off, or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. But it's just good. And sharing my story and sharing with people like you, Katie, who get it,
Yeah.
who take the time out of your schedule to talk to a total stranger about your mental health illness, and for you trying to do the right thing for first responders and everybody involved. I commend you also, because we need people like you
Thank
also.
you.
And that's amazing. And I'm sure you have your traumas in your life,
Oh yeah.
just like I know we talked one time on the phone, a Zoom call one time with some of our traumas, and it's just it's just great that because I like to surround myself with like-minded people, you
Yeah,
know.
same. Then people who are
So
gonna uplift me too.
right. Yeah, I don't want that. I don't what's it called? Debbie Downer. Yeah,
Yeah, no, no thanks.
yeah, like
I'm all set.
I used to work with a guy, and I'm not gonna mention his name, that I used to drive off going, oh my, you're killing me, or we go eat dinner. He would complain the whole time we're eating dinner. Yeah, and I used to say, hey man, we're getting paid pretty good, let's look at it that way. And I try to kind of like motivate him, and just people like that. Some people like misery enjoys company. But I try not to surround myself with people like that anymore.
Right. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I just want to reflect what I had heard, and please correct me if I was wrong in any of this, but a lot of what you were saying in there. So you had talked about before you're ready to accept any responsibility. And it's something that I've talked to with my clients. It's important to have that victim phase. It's equally important, even more important, to move out of the victim phase, because
Yeah,
when we're in the victim phase, we have no power to change anything because it's everybody else's fault, which means it
exactly.
can only be solved outside of us. So we take away all of our power when we're trying to do the opposite, which is like, hey, acknowledge what's happened to me here.
Right.
Acknowledge, validate my experience is basically what we're asking for when we're in victim phase. But
Mhm.
it's really important to go through that. And as you noticed, that shift of, oh, wow, let me start to take responsibility for what's my part in here. Like,
Right.
it wasn't your fault that a baby died. It wasn't your fault that you had to deal with a lot of things. It wasn't your fault you got molested and abused as a child. It wasn't your fault that you had a nasty lieutenant that was over you, that was bullying you. But what you do with that is within you to take care of.
Right.
And
Okay.
this starting to see that and understand how you can come out of that victim phase, that can do a lot to help us move forward. And then there was something else that you had said initially, and I'm curious how you feel about this, but when you had first started to tell your story, you mentioned that, oh, this didn't bother me, this didn't affect me. I'm wondering in hindsight how true that is versus it sounds like, from my understanding of trauma, that what you had done is you had disassociated so much that you
Yes.
literally didn't have the ability to feel those things, but they were absolutely fucking affecting you.
110%. Yeah. What I did was I just like, you know, and now think about in the first responder world. You go to a horrific car crash, 4 people are killed,
Yeah,
bodies are mangled. You got to cut them out. You're doing CPR. You're trying to save that person. Then what? After your shift, you go to bed.
right.
That's not healthy. There's this
No,
there's nothing healthy about that whatsoever. And that's you nailed it 110%. You nailed it. I just says, that's whatever. I'm putting aside, but eventually it's like this. It's like filling up a water bottle. Okay, eventually it's going to overflow. And once it starts getting about here, you might be thinking, okay, well, what's going on, but it shouldn't get to here. That's the bottom line. So yeah, I literally pushed all those things, and looking back at my career, I saw some nasty stuff.
oh yeah, I'm sure
Some
you
very,
did.
very probably stuff I forgot about, stuff I would like to forget about. Um, but it just and I used to say to myself, am I a cold son of a bitch? Am I this cold person that has no feelings, no remorse, no? And I said to myself, you know something? I must be. Now I look back and say, oh my God, how could I even think like that? Yeah,
Right.
But one thing I learned in my career also, if you don't mind me saying this also, was I developed compassion fatigue. And if people aren't familiar with compassion fatigue, is you pretty much you have no compassion or empathy for anybody.
Yeah,
Uh,
you get drained.
you drained. Yeah,
Basically,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
completely drained.
Oh, 100. Yeah. So, but I used to say to myself, why isn't this bothering me? Or I see a victim of crime, I'm like, this is a bad neighborhood. Why'd you drive through here? This is the 15th time we've gone to your house for a domestic violence call, and you still haven't divorced this guy. What the hell is wrong with you? Well, when you do 100 miles an hour, there's a chance you may hit a tree. What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah, and I said, man, I am cold. But then I learned also sometimes you have to put yourself in somebody else's position,
Yeah,
and you use domestic violence. I've never laid a hand on my wife. My wife's never laid a hand on me. I can't relate to that at all. But instead of condoning that person for taking that abuse, why don't you try and help them out a little bit?
right.
I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense or not.
No,
Um,
it does.
yeah,
You
and
know, and that,
when I used to go to mental health calls during my struggles, I hated going to those. After I got better, I loved going to mental health calls. I loved talking to people and say, "Hey, listen, I get this." No, you don't. Yeah, yeah, and we would share stories, and that was my connection
yeah.
to them, to get them help and to talk with them and to say, yeah, yeah, there's a saying that goes, it's okay not to be okay. I think
Mhm.
that's overused, that statement, but that's just my personal opinion. But the day you lose empathy, compassion, and whatever you do is that you want to start reevaluating yourself here a little bit. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. You know, and what a beautiful thing that you were able to hold space for those people and that were having mental health crises after you were over yours, and you just spoke directly to one of the main reasons I do what I do and why I focused on law enforcement in particular is now I'm totally losing my train of thought. The where you were talking about when you were having your own mental health crisis and then you were called in to help, you have trauma on trauma.
Oh,
Those are not
absolutely.
going to be resourceful nervous systems there because they're super triggered. They're looking to you and they're kind of afraid, okay, you can arrest them, you can do these things. So they're not going to be completely at ease with you. You're dealing with your own shit. So you've got two nervous systems that are on fire
Right,
trying to find rational ground, which is going to be tricky. You take the trauma out or you at least lower it enough that you have a resourceful nervous system. And now you have someone who's able to reach and have compassion and empathy for the person who is in a full-blown trauma crisis situation in that moment.
right.
And that is hugely powerful. Like I would love to hear like what changed for you when you made those shifts and you were able to start to hold space for those mental illness calls. How different was that for you, Mark, versus when you were still in your own crisis before you could hold that space?
Well, when I was in my own crisis, I would say to people, I would say to myself, like, is it really that bad? Come on, I'm handling it just fine, which I wasn't handling fine by any means.
Right.
Like I would go to suicide and I read the note, I shot myself because I lost my job. I can't provide to my
Mhm.
family. I'm like, this guy's a loser. That's what this guy is. I can't believe I'm even saying that now. So I would just, because I wasn't accepting my issue, like you kind of said earlier. I wasn't accepting my issue also. So it's kind of like two bulls that are like head on with each other. Who's going to give first? You know. So
Yep.
then when I started getting better, and when I saw the dark side of my life, again, like I think I said also, I'm not the only person who's ever gone through this, and unfortunately, I won't be the last person that's ever gone through this. So how can I help this person get through their trauma, whether I'm with them for an hour or whatever. Somehow now they're to say, hey, listen, yeah, there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I think I think my passion to do my job, because I said earlier, I was a good cop and I was very passionate about being a good cop. So being a good cop is not necessarily arresting people all the time and getting bad guys off the street. Yeah, that is a good cop when bad people need to be taken off the street, but good people need help also.
Yep.
And I think
Absolutely.
I think I had that mentality was through my crisis, it's us against them. But then when I went through my crisis, which obviously was a learning experience, I learned that, yeah, good people do get in trouble sometimes. Good
Mhm.
people do struggle with mental health illness. There are people that they're addicted to heroin. There are people that make bad choices in life, um, whether they realize it or not.
Right.
And so I think and I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's what, if I could talk really briefly for 1 second, I got a call one time. Um, it was for an Iraq vet that was called 911, said it was a female who said she's gonna go suicide by cop.
Mm.
Obviously, that's a serious call.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, your officer safety has to be very, very good. Well,
Hmm.
we get there, there's me and about two or three other deputies. We get there, they're taking out their long guns and all that stuff. I get that. I'm not here to talk about tactics or anything like that. I get that. But one of the deputies said to me, Sarge, I'm going to put a bullet right between her eyes if she pulls a gun on me. So I looked at him. Has anybody thought about maybe talking to her? I'm just throwing it out there. Oh, yeah, I will. Nobody's talked to her. And the other deputies were on scene before I got there. I'm like, have we tried to build a rapport with her? Have we tried to? I don't know what to say. And maybe to a point they're right. Maybe they don't know what to say. So I said, well, you know something, I'm going to give it a try. So she was barricaded in her bedroom, and I knocked on her door, and I know I can call her by name because she's still a friend of mine. Her name was Lisa. And so I knock on the door. I go, Lisa, it's Mark DiBona. I'm from the sheriff's office. It's Mark DiBona. F you. I don't want to talk to you. I was a sergeant. I don't take orders from nobody. I go, well, Lisa, I'm a sergeant also. So there's kind of a little bit of a bonding right there. And I
Right.
said, Lisa, I don't. There's nobody here that wants to hurt you. Not by any means. I said, I said, you're in a dark place right now. I've been in a dark place right now. Now, granted, I didn't go to Iraq. What you saw was probably not going to even imagine seeing. But I said, but think about your family, think about you, think about your loved ones. We can get through. There are a lot more people that care about you than don't care about you. So let's work on this. She says, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I got PTSD. So my exact words were, I said, Lisa, I'm going to be very blunt when I say this. I'm pretty fucked up also. Yeah. She actually laughed when I said that. I said, do me a favor. I said, put down the gun, come out. Obviously, you're to come out with your hands up. You just, that's something you have to do. You understand that being in the military. I said, but the last thing I want to do, Lisa, is I don't want you to get hurt. The first thing I want to do is I want to give you a hug. If you're a hugger, if you're not, I respect boundaries. And she's like, no, I'm not coming out. I said, listen to me, please. All of a sudden the door opens up. She comes out with her hands up. She's bawling her eyes out. And let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. And people are yelling. I'm like, oh, but again, I understand tactics. I get that. So I walked over. So I looked her dead in the eye. I go, Lisa, are you a hugger or not? She's, I'm a hugger. I said, here we go. And I gave her a hug. And
Oh,
the guys were saying, oh, Sarge, where she had a knife behind her back. Well, then if she had a knife behind her back, she had a knife behind her back. But I built that rapport with her. And to this day, I still talk to her. Yeah,
that's
I was
beautiful.
able to. We got her to the VA, got her some help with the VA, and I have some programs for programs like just military people. I got her in a program which was right by her house, and I kept in touch with her. I drove her to her appointments a couple of times, and I said again, I don't know what it's like to be in Iraq. I'm sure it was absolutely horrible, but I know what it's like to fight demons. So we're not going to compare who's got the worst demons. We're going
Right.
to go on even playing fields. And I thought that was the right thing to do. And I got so much satisfaction from that.
Yeah,
I really did. Because I think that kind of answers your question, at least I hope it does.
it
Uh,
does.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I just want to highlight some of the things that you talked about. Like these are staples people can put into their own life. And they're things that have benefited you. Is like first of all, identifying who's the most important person to you, your wife,
right,
mending that relationship, owning your part. And then you also mentioned you were learning an instrument and learning how
right,
to play music. So whenever we start to learn something new, we create new synapses in the brain. So guess what? We change the brain, and the brain has already been changed from trauma. So as you're starting to do challenging things and new things, you're shifting that neuroplasticity in a different direction. That's also going to raise your confidence because wow, I'm doing this thing. Maybe it's
right,
not going as fast as I wanted to, but I'm doing it.
right.
And so that's going to set off, I don't remember which, I think it's dopamine or something,
Uh,
but it's one of the happy chemicals that we need in our
yep,
brain that gets
yep.
set off when you start doing that and being of service. And I've heard it like called turning pain into purpose. And I love that because that's
I
what
like
I've
that
done as
saying.
well.
Yeah,
And that's what you've done. That's how you helped Lisa. That's how you're doing the work that you do now is you've turned your own pain, your own story into purpose, which is going to give us more. And that I firmly believe all of us are here to be of service to everybody else in our own unique way. And the way
absolutely.
you're of service looks different than the way I'm of service, even though we're servicing the same community, we have
Right.
different ways of doing it, and you're going to have your impact and I'm going to have a different impact. And it takes all of this to help to start to shift things to get into more of a mental state, and you were talking about the cops that answered that call with Lisa saying she wants to do suicide by cop.
Right.
You are going to immediately have nervous systems that are on super high alert, that are already probably in a state of hypervigilance anyway. So they're already on hyper alert. You've just tweaked them even higher. It says a lot about your colleagues you went into that none of them pulled the trigger in that circumstance, because that takes a hell of a lot of willpower when your
Oh, it
nervous
does.
system is telling you that you are fucked and
Yep.
that if she does one thing, she's dead. And
Yep.
to not take an action when you see her move, and to not mistake, like, oh, her palms are up.
Right.
She's not going to hurt us. The fact that they were even able to compute that really speaks to the level of awareness that they were still able to have, which is absolutely incredible when you're talking about being in that intense of a situation and being able to get out of it with everybody unscathed. That's incredible. I just wanted to highlight that in there for people who may not be really aware. And in everything you're talking about, Mark, these are normal physiological responses to trauma, including what happens when you have cumulative trauma build up over the course of a career and you don't have a way to offset that along the way. It's like, you mentioned the water bottle. I like to akin it to a can of Coke or a bottle of pop, whatever area of the country you're in. It's like you shake it up. What do you think is going to happen? So, like, you put all the traumas in there, your traumas in there, you put them in there, screw on the cap, shake it up. It's going to blow up at
Right.
some point. And that's the nature of trauma. Like, we push it down, we push it down, we push it down. That's akin to the shaking. And then one little thing, and it's not a little thing, but one thing comes up and suddenly we're off the rails. And
Right.
that's because we've hit critical mass. And what that looked like in my life when it happened, it wasn't a big explosion. It wasn't a suicide attempt. I was disabled
Mhm.
and I couldn't move. Well, I could move, but very, very little and with excruciating amounts of pain. That's what that was, my body being like, you are not listening. And so it just shut down on me until I
Right.
listened.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, okay, I don't know what else to do, but she won't sit still. So we're just going to make her sit still. We're
Right.
going to make her legs hurt and her back hurt so bad she's not going to want to move. And it worked. I started listening. But it looks different for everybody when that bottle gets shaken up and it explodes. But that point is coming. If you have been dealing with trauma, if any of Mark's story is resonating with you, start to take the air out. Reach out to him for help. I'm Mark, and I want to make sure that we read the mission statement for your Protecting the Guardian. So he has amazing services. He is focused on first responders to be able to help in this community so that people don't have to have a similar story or get to the point or have your bottle shaken. So it's going to explode all over everybody, because it will trickle into every area of your life. It already is, whether you're allowing yourself to admit that or not.
Right.
Trauma is already infiltrating every single area of your life if you are dealing with the things that Mark is talking about. So your site is at protectingtheguardian.com. We'll make sure that we've got that in the notes. And
Okay.
I want to read your mission statement. I'd love to just wrap up just talking about Protecting the Guardian here. So the mission of Protecting the Guardian is to create, promote, and maintain the health and wellness of law enforcement officers through education and training. It is through this education and training that officers will be empowered to succeed in their careers as well as in their personal lives. That is a beautiful mission. So tell us a little bit more about Protecting the Guardian, how it works, and how someone can reach out to you, Mark.
Okay. We've been using this now for about 3 years. We're a very small organization. There's 6 of us. There's myself, there's Nick, he's a mental health professional out of Chicago. My wife's in the organization. Therese, she's a registered nurse. Her dad died by suicide 5 years after he retired, who was a co-worker of mine. We have Ron Clark. Ron Clark is like he'd be a great guest on this show. Ron Clark is like he's like the most amazing person I ever met in my life. He was a Connecticut state trooper for 25 or 30 years. During that time, he was also a registered nurse and a mental health professional.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So he was a busy guy,
Yeah, I would say
and
so.
and he's a true blessing because now he's my father figure.
Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful.
he's just when I met him, I was in a dark place, and he got me through that dark place, and he's just a huge mentor, great friend. But I also look at him as a father figure. I look at him also. Then we have Teresa's boyfriend. He's retired deputy sheriff. He's also in the military. And so we have a great organization. So we provide training for, granted we lean more towards law enforcement, but that's not a big deal breaker by any means, because we have the resources for, and we can reach out to resources also for fire, EMS, corrections. And so we provide training. Like if a department says, "Hey, listen, we need to start. We either want to fine tune or we want to start a peer support unit," we can come in and help with that. I think one of the biggest things we do is we speak at training conferences or conferences, training events. That's a big deal for us. We're obviously on podcasts, webinars, and a lot of us are subject matter experts when it comes to mental health wellness for first responders. So we do that, but I think the majority of the stuff we do is we speak at conferences. The reason why we'd love that, reason for that is being so we can get the word out in conferences. It could be a conference of 10 people, it could be a conference of 10,000 people. I'm not stage fright, so there's no big deal for me. But our ultimate goal is to recognize mental health illness and mental health wellness and suicide prevention for first responders, military, and for anybody else. You don't have to be a first responder or a military to reach out to us. We have 1,000 resources. We're very, very dedicated to what we do. We would never tell anybody no. We don't have a 1-800 number, like a crisis number. We don't have that. However, on our website, we do have resources that you can reach out to. And if you reach out to us, I have 1,001 resources. Without exaggeration, I mean, I literally can turn somebody on to get the help that they need, or assistance they need also. Again, we're a very small organization. We're not into the glamour, glitter, or anything like that. We're just a grassroots, say it like it is, and it's really great. Someday we'd like to have a conference. Maybe not right now, because we're still, even though we were around for 3 years, we're still pretty much in our infancy stage. But we're not in competition for anybody else. There's a lot of mental health organizations for first responders. Some I think very highly of, some I don't think very highly of, and I have my reasons why. But I would never badmouth them. Again, we're no competition by any means. So that's kind of what we do. I leave for Indiana Thursday, and we're doing an 8-hour block for South Bend, Indiana PD.
Nice.
Nick, the mental health professional, he's doing 4 hours more on the clinical side. And then my 4 hours is pretty much my story and wellness and things like that. We can go anywhere from a 2-hour presentation to a 24-hour presentation.
Wow.
And we're proud of what we do. We get a lot of great feedback. We have a great team. I'm the president, so I say that for a reason, because I surround myself with people that I know are going to do a good job and they do a good job. But just the rank of president, it's just a title. That's all it is. We're all on the same playing field. We also dabble a little bit into nursing, because Therese and also my wife, both RNs. And Therese has presented on behalf of Protecting the Guardian for nurses. And if you think of the word protecting the guardian is that could be 1,000 different things that fall under guardian. But we just don't, and I use this line all the time in presentations: I'd rather talk with you than about you. And it's every time I hear about a first responder suicide, it just breaks my heart. It just
Me too.
really, and I say to myself, why didn't they reach out? And I think to myself, okay, now I know why they reach out, because I didn't reach out.
Right.
But and I say that if somebody's struggling, there's more people that want to talk to you than there are people that don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I did learn also was, and at first I was a little offended by it, is some of my coworkers stopped talking to me. They looked down upon me. I heard the rumors that I can't go into a building with this guy because he's crazy. I've heard that like several times. You take that with a grain of salt. There's not everybody's going to understand, and maybe those people are struggling also, and they don't know how to handle their struggles. So I used to be offended by that, but now I'm not offended by any means. I'm very proud of who I am. I'm very proud of my past. I'm very proud of my future that's going to go. I plan to do this, as long as I can, as long as I can, as long as I stay healthy mentally and physically. And we didn't really talk too much about physically. Yeah, physical is a big part also.
It is.
It
Yep.
really, I go to the gym. I go to the gym to get that good workout, to get that sweat, listen to my music while I'm working out. Got to know some people at the gym now, so it comes a little bit of a social hour too, which I'm fine with that. And I'm not here to say don't eat French fries or anything like that. We know it's
Right.
good food. We know it's bad for us. Yeah,
Yep.
and sometimes you need a cheat day. You need to have that burger. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
that pizza,
Absolutely.
or whatever. Like everything in the house is low fat, this, low fat that in the house here. So when I go out to, I have a lunch. We have a retirement lunch crew every Thursday. I so much look forward to it. And we're all retired cops. There's one active cop she's still active, although she'll be retiring soon. But when I go to that restaurant, I use the real butter, and that's a blessing.
Yep. I
So
love that.
yeah, yeah. So have my little glass
Nice.
of wine every once in a while with lunch or anything like that. So you got to live for today, but you also have to understand that there's no guarantee for tomorrow.
Yeah. I
And
sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
yeah, well, I was, I make a joke with my wife, and she doesn't like the joke. But I say to her, I want to when I'm laying on my deathbed, I don't want to look at her and go, "I'm so happy you ate that carrot stick." I'm gonna look at her as, "I'm so happy you had that meatball with a bowl of ice cream." Yeah,
Yep.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's not the wrong wellness plan by any means. But again, you just have to do what's right for you and what's right for your family. And when you're in a dark place, you're not the only person who's ever been in that dark place, and unfortunately, you're not going to be the only person that ever will be in that dark place. But when people reach out to you, you've got to take their hand. You really,
Yeah.
really do. And I will say this, a lot of people pissed me off when I was in my dark place. A lot of people, but they all had the right intentions of trying to get me help. I've
Yep.
apologized to every one of them. Yeah, yeah, and so I look at life now, life's enjoyment, big smile. So that's what we do in Protecting the Guardian. We do some media stuff also. And we just really, really want to help others. That's our ultimate goal. We don't want to be patting the back. We don't, or anything like that. We just want to do the right thing for our brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I love that. And just to kind of give you a different perspective on the comfort food and the times we have this as a one-off. Like moderation is key. Having it as a one-off is a good thing. I've got
Sure.
a friend who's a pancreatic cancer survivor actually, and so she's super super strict on her diet.
Right.
Cancer loves sugar. It doesn't like fat, it doesn't like protein, it loves sugar. So she is very little. And the way she words it is she's like, yes, the body needs this, but sometimes the soul needs nourishment too. Oh, I love that. So
That's
I
great.
like that helps me those times where I'm like, oh, this is bad for me. I'm like, but my soul needs it. And I do it so much less
Right.
because of that perspective on there. So I wanted to mention that. And then the last thing I want to wrap up with before we part for the day, other than immense gratitude for you spending your time with me today, Mark, and
Thank
allowing
you
everybody
also.
to benefit from your story. So what you had mentioned, you were talking about this starting in the 80s, your career. And one of the things that trauma does is it freezes us in time, which means your brain tries to tell you that it's always going to be this way. That's not true. It is absolutely not true. And I was thinking of the note you said of the guy's like, I lost my job, so I shot myself. It's like, I wonder, because I believe we have a soul after we pass, the soul is
Amen. Yeah.
infinite. And I wonder how much regret he had to realize that was just a moment in time.
Right.
And that's what I want everybody to really take away. Mark has talked about many, many moments in time. He's talked about getting down really to rock bottom and how amazing things are now that he has gotten away from that. So please do not listen to your brain when it's telling you it's always going to be this way, because it's bullshit. It's not true. And things will get better. Reach out to Mark. Reach out. 988 is active in every single state. If you have a number that's from a different state, ask them to route you to your local, not precincts, because the cops aren't going to come after you. 988 is there to help, as these are people who are trained with crisis lines. They're more anonymous if that makes you feel comfortable. But please do whatever you can to get past that message from your brain that it's never going to get better, because it's not true. It will.
Absolutely. Yeah. And being in a dark place, being hit rock bottom, unfortunately, that's part of life.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can control to a point, but we can't control our recovery. Like you said earlier, that's the we can control, and we can't control that this is the way it's going to be, and this is the way it's going to be for forever.
Right.
Right. No, you have to get out of that dark place.
Yep,
Easier said than
absolutely.
done. Don't get me wrong. Very now, like a lot of people, I kind of analogy mental health to going to the dentist. You get a toothache, all right, it's gonna go away. Now it's 2 or 3 days. This is really starting to hurt. So you make an appointment with the dentist. Dentist says to you, guess what? I got to pull that tooth. You're like, oh, okay. It's gonna make you feel better. Be in a dark place. Oh, it'll go away. Oh, go away. Oh, it'll go away. And it gets worse and worse and worse till you finally step up and say, if I had a toothache, I'd be going to get help. Why can't I get help for the trauma I'm in right now? And no trauma is too small or too big.
Nope.
Katie, the way you handle trauma, the way I handle trauma could be two different things.
Yep.
But the bottom line is it may be something very, very minor, but that minor thing, it's like a snowball effect. The snowball goes down the side of a mountain, eventually becomes an avalanche.
Hmm.
Okay. So when you let that small problem go on and on and on and on, eventually it's going to be a major problem.
Yep.
That could have been fixed months ago by a
Yep.
simple getting some help, talking it out, whatever your wellness plan is. And that's one thing I'm closing. I want to say that you got to have a wellness plan.
Absolutely.
You really got to have a wellness plan. I mean, there's sometimes being retired, I don't leave the house for like 2 days. And oh, you're a hoarder. No, I'm not a hoarder. I'm just I need to go food shopping. I'm just gonna sit in the house. I'm gonna watch TV, sit by my pool, but I'm also gonna have a wellness plan while I'm sitting in the house being bored. So whether it's picking up my guitar, playing with my dogs, when my wife gets home, having a good conversation with her. So there's got to be wellness every day in your life. There's got to be some type of wellness.
Yep. Absolutely. I love that. That's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you again so much for your time today,
Thank
Mark,
you,
and
Katie. I
sharing your
appreciate it. Thank
story.
you so much.
Thank you. So, and thank you, audience, for staying with us. I hope and I trust that this has got some good tips that you can take into your own life. And I encourage you to reach out to Mark, protectingtheguardian.com. We'll make sure that that link is in the show notes, as well as linking to him on LinkedIn and Facebook so that you can reach out and talk to him more if his message is resonating with you. So, with that, I will wrap it up and thank you guys, and we will pick it up again sometime soon.